I'd like to begin today's episode with a little bit of feedback for the deep state, the deep globalized state. All you guys had to do was to keep the cornucopia. We may have even let you rule over us forever. We have never woken up to anything. That's my theory, okay? It was all well and good until you guys tried to convince us that Fruit of the Loom never had a cornucopia, right? There was one. We all know that. By the way, if you're watching this and you don't know that, I want nothing to do with you. You're in the wrong timeline. We are not in the same timeline. Today is going to be a very interesting episode, definitely philosophical, meta, because I don't think I will ever get over the fact that Charlie Kirk knew that he was going to die young. And I am starting to believe that so did the agents that surrounded him throughout his entire life. Let's jump right back in. Welcome back to Candace. Everyone in the chat right now saying, yup, it had a cornucopia. I knew you guys were my people. I want to start by saying that the way that I feel, the way that I think a lot of you feel, the vibes that are surrounding us right now is that the deep state is in some sort of a panic, right? We've acknowledged that over and over again on the show. Something doesn't feel quite right. It feels almost like we are at the beginning of the end of a long satanic run. That's why, just so you guys know, despite the obviously sobering reality that the world is run by these people, I'm pretty optimistic every day. I can't explain it. I don't know why. Things are obviously coming apart, but things have to come apart before they can be put back together. And they're just getting sloppy. And if I could put it into a sentence, I would say that it's almost as if our awareness is the threat, right? Awareness, just our being conscious of what they are doing, somehow spells their doom, which is bringing me to wanting to discuss today, as I promised you, the CIA's Looking Glass Project. Now, we briefly touched upon this at the end of last episode. Obviously, I'm a conspiracy girly, and I'm thrilled that we get to dive a little bit deeper on this topic for those of you that don't know. The first thing that I want to remind you guys is exactly what I said at the top of the show. It is an absolute fact that Charlie Kirk thought that he was a time traveler. He told me he was a time traveler repeatedly. I showed you guys that text message exchange. I said to him in response that I didn't feel the same way and that I thought I was from another planet, that I was an alien my entire life. Just do not get it here. This planet is ghetto. That's how I feel. I don't understand it. The rules don't make sense. I think that's also why I like cats so much. I feel that they can relate to that. They think humanity is ghetto. They don't want to be around us. They don't like us. They know it's ghetto. It is ghetto here, right? Well, another bizarre fact is that back when Charlie and I were running around, we met in 2017, top of 2018. So I would say, obviously, Turning Point was an organization, but it wasn't the organization. It wasn't this behemoth of an organization that it became. No, he had no real degree of fame. I think that's fair. But he was required to have security on him at all times. That was orchestrated. His security, Schaefer Security, was orchestrated by Bill Montgomery. He has since passed, the late Bill Montgomery, and he was from the military. He founded Turning Point USA with Charlie. Charlie wanted to go to West Point and then instead started Turning Point USA when he was 18 years old. Thinking about that, the security, him texting saying, "I'm not allowed to go anywhere. I feel so important," I think was the exact message. That, to me, is objectively weird in retrospect. Wasn't weird at the time, it's weird now. And it makes me think that Charlie may have been marked since he was a child. We've discussed these GATE programs that they have in school. And I just think on the basis of what he told me, that when he was really young, they wanted to drug him, but his mother said no, and he was really grateful for that. And instead, they decided that they could send him to this X-Men school. That's the best way I can describe it. I would certainly, by the way, for you internet sleuths, I'd like to find out which school Charlie had to attend. So he was pulled out of the regular school he was attending, and he had to go to some special school for the gifted, like he was an X-Man. And I am of the opinion, it's an opinion, I'm allowed to have it, it's obviously not a fact, but I am of the opinion, based on the discussions I had with him, that he's been monitored since. That his test scores, every test they probably did on him, he was off the charts, and they wanted to make sure that he was being watched. That's my theory in general on all kids that are in extraordinary and GATE type programs. Maybe we should be training our kids to get like an 85% on the test. At most, before the government agents are going to swoop in and go, who is this genius child, you know? And a lot of weird things used to happen to Charlie. He would go on runs. I think I told you guys this after sundown. And when he was running, street lights would go out. Like it was like he was in a burst of energy, like he was a lightning bolt or something. So to slow this down for you, there are, just in general, all of these inexplicable experiences that we have in life. And they try to make it weird for us to discuss them. Like just even being philosophical and thinking about these things for a long time, they don't want that. Deja vu is probably chief among them. We all have experienced deja vu. We are certain something happened, that we already did that, but it didn't actually happen. You're like, but I feel like it did. Oof, I just got a bad case of deja vu. Well, guess what? There's no official expert explanation for that. Sleep paralysis, for those of us who suffer that, I had some terrifying experiences before I knew what it was. They don't really give us a full explanation for that. Similar, also, another example of things that are inexplicable and maybe somehow related to deja vu, the story of how I met my husband. I've told it many times, how I got engaged 18 days later. No one believes me. They don't want to accept it, except maybe Charlie Kirk, because he was there for it. But I already knew George. That's how I describe it. I saw his face. I know that doesn't make sense, but it happened that way. I looked at my husband's face and I already knew him. It was like a sigh of relief. And there's other explicable events and things like Charlie telling me that he was going to die young. Anyway, today we are going to be showing you clips from a YouTube channel called Be Inspired. We're going to link it in the comments as well, because they did such a fantastic job of diving into these phenomena and how they likely relate to another shady government CIA program, which came to be known as Project Looking Glass. This actually happened. These were whistleblowers that came out, like with all of these projects, people that are in the military, scientists coming out and saying, hey, government has this technology and they can peer into the future. I'm sorry, what? What does that mean? Anyways, the narrator of this channel, who I could not find his name to save my life because there's multiple people that work this channel, but he begins by taking us back to the Y2K scare. You guys remember that. Of course, you remember the Y2K scare. I was actually scared. I was young. I was like, oh my gosh, I just want to die like this. I don't want to die just because it's midnight and it's the year 2000 and they were just kind of pumping all this fear into us. Anyway, let's jump right into this clip.
Let's start with Y2K. In the final months of 1999, there was a global concern that computer systems would fail when the date switched to the year 2000. All the software used only 2 digits to record years, so 2 nils might be read as 1900, potentially disrupting banks,
credit cards, and ATMs may cease to function.
power grids, airlines,
Airplanes and trains may come to a halt.
governments and corporations spent over $300 billion updating systems. It was one of the largest coordinated tech efforts in history. People stocked food, withdrew cash, and prepared for the worst. But when midnight came, almost nothing happened. The systems held, the world moved on. Still, that global moment left an imprint. Some view it as a psychological turning point, the end of the analog age and the quiet beginning of a fully digital world. From that point on, life accelerated. Culture, communication, and consciousness shifted onto screens, fast, constant, and increasingly disconnected from physical time. Some researchers believe Y2K wasn't about a bug at all, but a kind of global psychological reset, a ritual of fear, distraction, and silence. The code may not have crashed, but something else may have been triggered. Our perception of time and reality. After something strange started happening online, people began noticing memories that didn't match reality. The most famous? The Berenstain Bears. Millions remember it as Berenstain with an E, but every book says Berenstain with an A, and that's just the beginning.
If you're running a simulation and you go back and you change some variables and you rerun the simulation, lots of little things could be different along the way, right? You have many different possible paths.
You have glitches in the matrix.
Exactly. You're now on this timeline, but you remember. You have like a deja vu, or you have like a weird memory.
Movie quotes, logos, product names, all different than we remember. Entire groups of people swearing something changed with no explanation. It became known as the Mandela Effect, named after people who remembered Nelson Mandela dying in prison years before he actually did. What could cause something like this?
Are you familiar with the Mandela Effect? Yeah.
Of course.
Millions of people remember certain events that never happened. And so how do you explain that? As we go through our conscious progression, as we raise consciousness, the way we perceive the world, and therefore all that will exist in our world, will morph to that new resonance as a sympathetic resonance. So certain aspects of the old world will just no longer exist. And so we can still have a phantom memory of those experiences, whether it's like Jiffy peanut butter or Luke, I am your father, which he never said that, right? All these things like that literally just like fall out of your new frequency. Because everything in your world around you, including time itself, is retrocausal. The world around you that is no longer fitting your frequency will disintegrate and dissolve.
Okay, so I'm not trying to start a world war in the comment section today, but Pikachu had black at the end of his tail. Obviously, I don't know when they hit delete on that button, but he definitely had black at the end of his tail. Some of these things just don't make any sense to me. And it's just amazing that we just sort of accept it and we just keep moving on. And when you start asking questions, they try to paint you with, no, don't ask the questions. Just keep going on. Let's just pretend. Let's just pretend that, there was no cornucopia. Anyways, this brings us obviously to the CIA's project Looking Glass. Essentially, there were these whistleblowers, like I told you, in the military and within the CIA apparatus that came forward to reveal that the deep state had a technology, which they stole, of course. Please do not miss the part that I keep explaining to you. These people are not smarter than you. They're just more evil. They steal, they plunder, and they steal things, and then they rewrite history and pretend that they were geniuses. Anyways, they have a knack for murder, they have a knack for theft, and this time, just like a lot of times before, they stole a device from the ancient Sumerian civilization that's located in modern-day Iraq. Very advanced civilization. They're obsessed also with Egyptian civilization, as we discussed yesterday. The Satanists kind of taking and reintroducing these things. First, they keep them to themselves. They hoard these things, and then they kind of give us certain aspects of technology as time goes on. So they steal this piece of technology, and they incorporate it into a computer, and suddenly they're apparently able to predict future outcomes. Just imagine the deep state being able to look into a glass, so to speak. The Sumerian culture was known for their advancement in glass, and to see different outcomes. I mean, the amount of power that you would have, and then also fathom in your mind that the people that are Satanists have this power. Take a listen.
This is where things take a turn, because according to Bill Wood, a former Navy SEAL with high-level clearance, the US military once had access to a device called Project Looking Glass, a technology that could supposedly view potential future timelines.
The project was shut down because there was a problem when we approached 2012. The timelines converge on that point in time. When you know how string theory works and how the possibility of possibilities works and how making one choice over here doesn't necessarily mean that the other choice couldn't exist at the same time. But once you get your brain wrapped around this subject, you find out that at the end of 2012, in an easy way to put it, the choices that we make become less and less consequential to the future. And eventually we're pushed into this bottleneck of time, no matter which choice we make.
Okay, so is that certainly 2012 in your understanding?
It's well coincides with December 21st, 2012.
So at that point, all possibilities lead to the same
timelines.
Rubicon.
All possible timelines lead to the same basic set of history in the future.
And after that, they shut it all down. Now ask yourself, why would a system like that be buried, and what exactly did they see? Because this isn't just about false memories or tech. It might explain why everything since 1999 feels frozen and artificial, like we're on rails in a version of reality that wasn't meant to last this long. And if you think that's wild, wait until you hear what else Looking Glass may have revealed. So what exactly did they see with Looking Glass? According to multiple whistleblowers, including Bill Wood and other interviewed by Project Camelot, every time they ran the device, no matter what variables they changed, all future timelines converged to a single fixed point. That point, somewhere between 2012 and 2016. After that, the future became unpredictable. No more branching outcomes, just a wall.
So it's super interesting that they couldn't see beyond 2012, or rather they could see beyond 2012, but maybe things became inevitable. That was backed up, by the way, by a lot of different things. Mayan civilization, the calendar, remember that whole scare? Why doesn't the calendar go beyond? So you arrive at this point and you wonder, what is this, right? Suddenly these people who are evil are no longer allowed or able to control outcomes, essentially. Or perhaps, so maybe they did see something beyond 2012. But no matter what they did, they couldn't change the outcome of that thing that they saw beyond 2012. So it wasn't so much the future couldn't be predicted, but rather that they couldn't change it, like something was coming. That's how it kind of feels to me when I just examine everything that's going on. There is this panic, like evil is panicking right now, and they're making a lot of mistakes because they're no longer in control. And I would also add here that one of the things that I've noticed is that they're trying to turn us all, again, maybe this is their solution, where they're going, okay, what are we going to do? We can't change the outcome. Maybe we can just turn everybody into a computer program. Like they want us all to be the same. They seem to get really angry when we behave like humans. Like that's one of the things they're trying to triumph is our humanity. We talked about this a lot with the Charlie Kirk story, the reaction, how we felt icky, but they were like, what's wrong with you? How dare you feel icky? How dare you not like this? Don't you know this is what he would want? It's like their inability to defeat our humanity is angering to them. Now, something that was crucial, which was revealed about Project Looking Glass, was that the people who were in the room while this device was being operated, their conscious thoughts impacted the device, okay? So just imagine this. What they were thinking in the moment was changing future outcomes. Thoughts influenced future outcomes. That piece is super relevant to what we're going to discuss. And obviously that's pretty reminiscent of one of the themes of The Matrix. I just am going to assume everybody's seen that movie. If not, you should watch it because it was way ahead of its time. And he is going to connect that dot here. Take a listen.
So what exactly did Project Looking Glass reveal, and why was it quietly shut down? The people involved began noticing something strange. No matter what variables they used, the results kept showing the same future, a point where all possible timelines seemed to merge. That moment, somewhere between 2012 and 2016. After that, everything became unclear, like the future couldn't be read anymore. This brings us back to 1999. A year that might have marked more than just the turn of a century. It's also when The Matrix was released. At the time, it was seen as just another sci-fi movie, but looking back, it feels like something more.
You've been living in a dream world, Neo.
The film introduced a powerful idea, that the world we experience might not be what it seems, that reality could be shaped or even simulated without us knowing. And once you start asking questions, things begin to change. That idea resonates deeply with what many have felt since the early 2000s. The time feels different, that the future doesn't feel open the way it once did. Almost like things are repeating themselves, the same cycles, the same events, showing up again and again. Some people even report seeing repeating numbers everywhere, like 1111, 222, 444, almost like little glitches or signals hidden in everyday life. And strangely enough, this idea of patterns repeating, of cycles you can't escape, lines up with what Looking Glass operators allegedly encountered. The sensation that the future was already written and that all paths lead to the same outcome. Fast forward to 2012, some whistleblowers claim that a confidential briefing took place where certain agencies acknowledged the shift, a kind of convergence in human potential. This document, released by the CIA, explores consciousness as something that can move through time, even outside of the physical world. It discusses remote viewing, timelines, and the nature of reality itself. Now, connect that to The Matrix, and the overlap becomes hard to ignore. Maybe it wasn't just a movie, maybe it was the first time the system gave us a glimpse behind the curtain. And if that's the case, what else have we been shown without realizing it?